Okay, let's dive in. Today we're unpacking a source that, well, it uses a pretty universal experience dealing with viruses, health, all that stuff as a way into learning English.
Yeah, it's a clever way to do it, actually. Instead of just grammar rules, it grounds everything in, real life talk, giving
Yeah.
you the words you actually need when you're feeling sick or trying to stay healthy.
Right. So our mission here in this deep dive is basically to guide you through this specific source. We'll pull out the key takeaways, the really useful bits, maybe some surprising things too.
Think of it as a shortcut, yeah, to get you up to speed on how this particular material suggests talking about health.
We'll look at how it defines a virus, keeps it simple. Then, the everyday language for being sick.
And some of those common phrases, the idioms, like under the weather.
Ah, yes, those. And also, interestingly, how big events like the pandemic actually shape the words we use. That's quite something.
Definitely. Plus, talking to a doctor and how to talk about staying healthy, which is just as important.
It really shows how language isn't just fixed, is it? It moves, it adapts to what we all go through. So you're going to get some solid vocabulary, a real feel for these conversations.
And maybe see language changing right there in a learning text, which is pretty neat.
Okay, so where do we start? The absolute basics, I guess.
Makes sense. Section 1 in the source is all about that. What even is a virus?
Right. And how does this material explain it?
Hmm.
In simple terms, yeah.
Very simple. Basically, a virus is a tiny thing, super small,
Yeah.
makes people sick.
Can't see it, gets in your body, causes trouble.
Exactly. And crucially, it spreads easily, person to person. That's the core idea they present.
Okay, nice and clear. And they give examples, right? To make it concrete.
Yeah, the common ones you'd expect.
Yeah.
The flu, the common cold, COVID-19, obviously,
Right.
chickenpox, hepatitis 2, just familiar names to pin the idea to.
Gotcha. And then they build on that with some key vocabulary, the essential terms.
Mm-hmm. Defined really clearly. So, contagious is easy to catch from someone else.
Mm.
Simple. Symptoms, the signs you're ill, like, a cough, a fever, what you actually feel or see.
Makes sense.
An infection,
Uh,
that's when the harmful thing, the virus maybe, gets into your body.
and the immune system.
Yeah, that's your body's defense force, basically, the part that fights off the illness.
Mhm.
These are the building blocks they lay out.
Okay, so that sets the stage. We know what a virus is in their terms, but then how do you actually, talk about it when you feel rough? English can be tricky there.
Yeah, and this next section is super practical for that. It gives you actual sentences you can use like, I think I've caught a virus. Straightforward.
Or that classic, I'm feeling under the weather. And I like that the source specifically points out it just means I don't feel well. That's gold for a learner.
Totally. Context is everything. And it shows how to be more specific, too. Like, I've got a sore throat and a headache, naming those symptoms we just talked about.
Or, if you're guessing, I might have the flu.
And it doesn't stop there. It also includes what you might do about it. I'm going to rest and drink lots of fluids. So, state the problem, speak the plan.
Practical stuff. And the source lists those common symptom words again, just the basics.
Yep, just the core list. Cough, fever, headache, runny nose, sore throat, and fatigue, which they clarify means feeling tired.
Good clarification.
And there's a neat little tip tucked in there, too. It basically says, when you're feeling unwell, don't overcomplicate it. Just say what you feel. Speak simply.
That's actually great advice. Directness is fine, but of course, English loves its idioms and more, well, colorful ways of saying things. That's the next bit, right? Common phrases.
Ah, yeah, this is where it gets fun. Shows the personality in the language. We already had, I'm feeling under the weather.
Right. A staple. What else?
He's come down with something. Very common way to say someone's sick but you don't know or don't want to say exactly what.
Vague but effective.
Or even subtler, like, she's off today. Just implies something's not quite right, probably illness.
And the dramatic ones.
Oh yeah, like, he's coughing his lungs out. Which, as the source points out, is definitely an exaggeration, meant humorously.
Not literal. Good to know.
And for recovery. You might say, I need to sleep it off. Just rest until it passes.
Okay. And when someone's better?
She's back on her feet. And again, the source nails the definition. She's healthy again.
These phrases, they just make conversations sound more natural, don't they?
They really do. And speaking of natural language, the source brings up something really, really interesting. How big events can actually shift the words we use every day.
Yeah, the pandemic section. It's fascinating to see this acknowledged in an English learning context. It highlights how dramatically things changed, vocabulary-wise.
It's kind of amazing how quickly some words went from being maybe technical to just Normal conversation.
Totally. The source lists them out. Social distancing, self-isolation, lockdown, quarantine. These became household terms, didn't they?
Almost overnight. And things like remote work or working from home, WFH. Yep. And specific pandemic terms like essential workers, PPE, person protective equipment. Remember how often we heard PPE?
Constantly. And phrases about the public health side, like flatten the curve.
And even the types of tests, PCR test, lateral flow test, the fact these are in this source, it just shows how deeply embedded they became.
That's the key point the source makes, right? These aren't just temporary buzzwords anymore.
Exactly. They're now part of standard everyday English. It's well, a living example of language evolving right in front of us, shaped by this huge shared experience.
So to make all this language real, the source gives some conversation examples, like role plays.
Yeah, little scenarios. They help put the words into practice. There's one between friends, which feels very typical.
How does that go?
Well, one friend just notices the other looks unwell. Hey, you don't look so good. Are you okay? That kind of check-in.
Nice and natural.
And the friend uses those phrases we saw. I don't know. I think I've caught a virus. That maybe lists symptoms. I've got a sore throat and I feel really tired.
Using fatigue implicitly there with really tired.
Mm-hmm. Then the first friend asks about maybe seeing a doctor, offers help. Let me know if you need anything. Just a normal, supportive chat.
Okay, so that's the friend scenario. What about talking to a doctor? That's a bit different.
Yeah, slightly more formal, obviously, but crucial. The example shows a patient describing symptoms, maybe starting with how long it's been. I've had a fever and sore throat for 2 days.
Clear and concise.
And adding more detail like, yes, I've been coughing a lot and I feel very tired. Again, hitting those key symptom words.
And the doctor side.
The doctor might use slightly more technical terms like, sounds like a viral infection. But the advice is usually simple, using those familiar words. Drink plenty of fluids and get some rest.
So these examples really showed the language in action, adapting it for who you're talking to.
Exactly. It's about context.
Okay, so we've covered being sick, talking about it, even how language changed. What's the final piece? Staying healthy.
Right. Shifting gears from illness to wellness. How do you talk about trying not to get sick?
Good point. What does the source offer there?
It provides language for discussing those good habits, preventative stuff. It lists the usual advice. Eat healthy food, drink water, get enough sleep. The basics.
Standard health wisdom.
And also daily practices. Wash your hands, often very relevant now. Get fresh air, maybe take vitamins, exercise regularly.
And it gives phrases for talking about doing these things.
Yeah, common ways to express it, like I try to eat healthy, or being specific about exercise. I go to the gym 3 times a week.
Okay, framing it as habits or intentions.
Exactly. And it even throws in a couple of those well-known sayings, proverbs about health, like sleep is the best medicine.
Can't argue with that one.
Or the absolute classic, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Shows how these ideas are just part of the cultural conversation.
Right. So let's pull back for a second. We've gone through this whole source, this deep dive. What are the main things we've extracted here?
Well, we've seen how this material tackles talking about viruses and health. Started with the real basics, what a virus is, then moved into everyday language for feeling unwell, those idioms too.
Yeah, the colorful bits. And the really striking part about how major events actually change our vocabulary day to day.
Definitely. Plus those practical conversation examples, friend to friend, patient to doctor, and finally, the language for talking about staying well.
So by digging into this source, you really get a focused look at how to handle these common health conversations in English. It's like a mini toolkit.
Yeah, it's a neat shortcut to feeling more confident with this specific, very relevant topic based on how this learning material presents it.
It definitely shows that even, language learning stuff can offer these broader insights into how we communicate about shared experiences.
Absolutely. Which kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it?
Go on.
Well, just thinking about how much of our everyday language is actually shaped by these big collective things we go through, like dealing with illness on a large scale.
And what does that constant change, that adaptation, really tell us about language itself? That it's not static, it's alive.
Exactly. Something we're all building and reshaping together all the time.
Yeah.
Definitely something to chew on.
Indeed. Something to mull over until our next deep dive.